Hi, my friends. I'm going to teach you a little trick on how to speed up your computer that not too many people know about, and I'm going to show you how to do it now. Hi, my name is Scott Robert Lim, and let's get to it. So what you want to do, if you have an Apple computer, you're going to go under the little apple. Now you can do this same trick with a PC computer too, but I'm not sure how to do it there. I just specialize in Apple. And you go down to System Preferences. What you want to go to next is Displays. And when you're in Displays, usually you're going to be in your default display setting. Hit Scaled. This will give you some different choices on your display. If you choose a lower resolution, your computer will be faster when it comes to editing Photoshop and Lightroom and things like that. So you can lower your resolution. You might even want to try, instead of 1 down, 2 down. You could put your resolution down to 1280 by 720 and still edit photos and get the detail that you need. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this and why this works. I can't change the resolution here because my screen recording will stop, but let me tell you right now why this works. I discovered this little trick because I use 3 computers. And I'm going to show you these 3 computers, and I want you to pick which one runs the fastest. So one, I have a laptop, a 15-inch laptop. Now, they're all generally the same speed, i7, 16 gigs RAM, same type of hard drive, flash drive. So same type of graphics processor. So they're generally all the same. But there's one that definitely runs the fastest. So here's a laptop. My display is 2880 by 1800. Then I have another iMac, a 21-inch. It's faster processor speed, 3.1 at i7. And its display is HD display, 1920 by 1080. And then I have an even newer iMac with a beautiful 4K resolution screen, even faster, 3.3 i7, 16 gigs RAM, and their display is 4096 by 2304. Now, which one is the fastest? You could probably look at this and eliminate this one because you're going, well, that's 2.3 gigahertz. The rest are above 3. So let's get rid of that one. And now it's down to these 2. You may think, wow, 2015, it's newer, it's 4K, and everything new runs faster. I bet you it's that one. But you know what? Nope, it's not. It's actually the older one, the 2013. This one runs the fastest. I love doing Photoshop. I love doing Lightroom on this computer because it runs the fastest, because look at the built-in display. It's the lowest out of all 3 of these, making it faster. Now you say, well, if I lower the resolution, I might not be able to edit the detail, and I'm worried about that. And I have a 42 megapixel camera, and I want to make sure I get all the detail. Well, let me tell you, it is fine, and I'm going to prove it to you. So I took this picture here, and what I did was I cropped in real close, right in tight to my friend's ear. Okay, so I did it in one mode. I was at 1280 resolution, and then I cropped in on another mode when I was at 4K resolution. And this next slide I'm going to show you, you're going to see the difference zoomed in real close. You don't see any difference between 1280 and 4K. It's the same, and you can zoom in and have plenty of detail because that's real close, right? Coming in and still have enough detail to edit. You're fine. And so if you're worried about having enough detail to edit, don't. because just lower your resolution and you can edit just as if you were at a 4K monitor. Now you may be wondering, well, then what's the difference between 4K? Why do they have to have 4K if I can edit all the same and a lower resolution makes it faster? Well, there's a few things that make it maybe why you want to use a 4K resolution screen. And on the left hand side is 4K, on the right hand side is 1280. So now you can look on the left and you can see on the bottom when I turn my screen to 4K, this is the same 21-inch iMac, okay, both of these pictures. You're going to see a lot more thumbnails on the left hand side, and you can see the panels, the lettering is smaller, and you can make everything smaller. And on the right hand side, you're going to see less thumbnails, so it's going to be able to see less desktop area, I guess you could call it, display area. And look at the panels on the right, how big they are. Because the resolution is lower, it's having to blow those panels up. And if you notice, in order for me to have the picture, the eye, this generally the same size, I had to take away one of the panels on the left-hand side, the navigation panel. Because the resolution is lower, I don't have enough real estate to show everything, so I had to take that panel away. So you can see that the detail is the same when looking at it at 4K and 1280 in close up, but the 4K is going to show more real estate even though you're using the same size monitor. Because the resolution is smaller, you can show more. And so you get more detail on smaller items that you see on your computer, like thumbnails and things like that. Whereas in 1280, you can't make things as small, and when things are small, they look a bit digitized and chunky. But when you zoom in close, because the photo is a higher resolution than your screen, you're basically going to get the same resolution when you zoom in close. There's not going to be a difference. And so you can see there that the detail's the same, but it looks a little bit different. But your computer runs faster with a lower resolution, especially if you're using Lightroom and Photoshop. So why does this work? Well, first of all, 4K has 9 million pixels that your computer is trying to manage. Now, if you go to a Retina screen, you're looking at 5 million, which is half. Then you go to HD mode, which is, again, less than half. You're down to 2 million pixels your computer is managing. Then you go lower than that, 1280 by 720, it's 0.9 million pixels it's editing or trying to manage. And so now let's say you're at 4K resolution and then you pull it down all the way down to HD resolution. That's 7 million less pixels it has to manage, because your computer has to manage every one of those pixels, and the less pixels you manage, the faster your computer can work. Just plain simple math. So that's why that works. And so let's say you did this trick and you don't have too much success on it. Well, there might be other reasons why your computer runs slow. And I'm going to give you 4 more ways on how to speed up your computer, especially if you have an older computer. Well, speed is determined by 4 different things. One is by your CPU, right? And that's obvious. The better the CPU. They started out with, Core 2 Duos, which is a dual core CPU. Then they went to an i3, and then i5, i7, i9. So the higher the number, the better. Typically, if you want to do photo editing, you got to be in the i5, i7 range. And most likely, if you can do 4 cores, that's better than 2 cores. A lot of the 13-inch computers are only 2 cores. They only started making 4-core 13 computers for Apple just recently. So that's why you get the 15-inch, because it's a quad core on a lot of those computers. Now there's the memory or the RAM, and that's determined. The more RAM you have, it's kind of like the bigger your desktop is to work on. If you got a small little desktop, oh, like I can barely put my laptop on it, and then you have these papers, and then you have to, put this other equipment on it, and it's like all of a sudden, if you don't have enough room on your desktop, you can't work efficiently because you don't even have enough room to put your ruler on there and your coffee and all that stuff. But if you have a bigger desk, hey man, put the files on it, put a laptop on it, put a desktop on it, put the hard drives on it. You got more room to operate, the more efficient it is. That's the way RAM is. The more RAM you have on your computer, the better it is, and the faster it can access data that's just right there. Then there's storage speed, your hard drive. How fast is your hard drive? If you have an old computer, say from 2006 to 2012, most likely you might have a rotational drive, and so those drives are really slow, and you can put a new SSD drive in there and it will operate 5 to 10 times faster. Now the newer computers have these NVMe interfaces which work with your memory, work with your storage, and the transfer speed is much faster. Instead of 6 gigabits per second, it could go up to 16 or 64 gigabits per second, which is really fast to transfer that information. So that's another factor, what type of hard drive you have in your computer. And then the GPU, which is specifically designed for graphics. So it's for rendering high resolution images and video. So if you don't really do that, if you're just on your computer to maybe stream and you're not doing any photo editing or you're not doing anything like that, you don't really need a super fancy computer. You just need a SSD drive and as much RAM as you get. Usually RAM, you want to get about 8 gigabytes for nowadays. 8 is good. 4 is on the fringe there, but 8 is standard. 16 is great. Especially for photo editing and video editing, for sure you need 16. So your GPU is either built into the CPU or it's dedicated and it's by itself. And a lot of the better computers have larger GPUs. A laptop might have, a newer one might have 2 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes or something like that. And then the older one might have 500 megabytes or 256 megabytes. Not that much. But definitely the GPU, the larger it is, also generates heat and takes up power. And so when you take a laptop and you put a nice GPU in it and a CPU, it's going to really overheat that unit. And so that's why a lot of the newer laptops I don't like, because if you buy a used one, half of them don't work because there's heat issues and the heat causes components to not work and all that kind of stuff. So I actually like the older ones, like from 2008 to 2012, because there's more room in there and it's upgradable. You can upgrade the RAM and you can upgrade the drive. It's very easy, whereas the newer laptops, sometimes you can't upgrade the RAM at all, and it's harder to upgrade the drives and stuff like that, but it can be done. So those are the 4 different things that determine the speed. Okay, and so in order for you to speed up your laptop, I'm going to give you 5 ways to increase your computer speed, especially if you have an older type of iMac or Macbook Pro or MacBook. Use a SSD drive, and you need 20% free space. They say anywhere from 10 to 20%. But the more free space you have on your drive, the better it's going to operate, because it just has more room to transfer information. So upgrading a SSD is huge. Instead of taking 2 minutes to start up, it's going to take 10 to 20 seconds to start up, which is great, because that information travels and transfers 5 to 10 times faster. Your RAM can immediately increase the speed of your computer. Especially if you're at 2 gigabytes, you got to get at least, I would say nowadays, try to get 8. 16 is even better. Lower the display resolution. I just talked about that. I would suggest just going 1 notch down, not unless you want to try doing it at 1280, but 1 down from wherever you're at, especially if you're at 4K, you bring it down 1. your computer screen, the display, I mean, everything might look a little bit larger, but it's still sort of like what you're used to. If you lower it too much, the screen is going to look a lot different than you're used to. Then you want to clear all the images off your desktop. And this is huge because the more images you have on a desktop, then it's just going to take more RAM and more resources to kind of manage that information and data that's all on your desktop. So here's what I do. Every year, I just clear off my whole desktop. I take a little folder. So like this year, I'll put 2020 desktop. I'll make that a folder, grab everything off my desktop, put it inside there, and then put it on my hard drive. And then every year, I start with a brand new desktop with nothing on it. Now, what you want to do, tip number 5, is use your computer as your brain. So your computer just basically hosts your programs, and that's about it. You could probably do Word docs and Excel docs because they don't take that much memory. And then all your photos and your video and all that, put that on an external drive and have it clean. So you have your data on an external drive so you never fill up your laptop. Your laptop is just your brain, and it has your programs on it, and it can run more efficiently this way. And then when you want to expand, you won't fill up your computer or your laptop and feel like, oh my gosh, my laptop's running so slow because you put all these images on it, and then you just end up buying a new laptop when maybe you just need to clear off your desktop and have all your data on the drive, preferably an SSD drive if you can, because that will work a lot faster. If you have Thunderbolt and you do a Thunderbolt drive or a USB 3 drive, it's going to be flying. And if you have a Thunderbolt 3 or a USB 3, you could probably run your computer off an external drive and be just as fast because it's really, really fast transfer speeds at that point. Okay, so here's 5 ways to increase your speed of your computer. And if you're having problems with this and you need help, I have got some free computer counseling, consulting, especially if you have Macbook Pros or iMacs anywhere from 2008 to 2012. I can get those going, refurbish them, upgrade them, put SSDs in them, or whatever. And I also have a lot of MacBook Pro laptops that are quad core, which are great too, that I've refurbished. So just let me know if I can help you out. I love computers, and I hope this tip helped you out. I'm going to have some more tips later on. And thanks a lot for joining me, and stay tuned for a lot more tips in the future.